That tub of cream cheese sitting in your refrigerator right now. The one you spread onto your bagel every single morning without giving it a second thought. The one you use in your recipes. The one you put out at gatherings because it feels like a simple, honest, recognizable food that doesn't require any investigation before you trust it. You assumed that meant something straightforward. Fresh cheese, cream, a little salt. That is what cream cheese has always been. A soft, mild, fresh cheese that takes about a day to make the traditional way. Simple enough that home cooks were producing it in their own kitchens a century before any of the brands on this list ever existed. Here is what almost nobody standing in the dairy aisle actually knows before they reach for the familiar foil-wrapped block or the plastic tub they've been buying on autopilot for years. The FDA's standard of identity for cream cheese, the legal definition that determines what a company is allowed to call cream cheese on a label, requires the product to contain at least 33% milk fat and no more than 55% moisture. What it does not require is any particular limit on the number of additional ingredients a manufacturer can add beyond milk and cream. Carob bean gum, xanthan gum, guar gum, carrageenan, whey protein concentrate, sodium phosphate and natamycin, a pharmaceutical-grade antifungal agent used as a mold inhibitor, are all legally permitted in products sold as cream cheese in American grocery stores. Most of them are present in the most popular brands sitting on the shelf right now, and the product that contains all of these compounds can sit right next to a product made from 2 ingredients and legally carry the same name on the front of its packaging because the FDA standard of identity does not distinguish between them as long as the fat and moisture percentages are within range. Separately, a category exists called cream cheese spread or soft cream cheese product that sits immediately adjacent to actual cream cheese on the same refrigerated shelf, often in nearly identical packaging, at a similar or sometimes lower price point that does not meet the FDA standard of identity for cream cheese at all because its milk fat content falls below the required 33% threshold. These products are typically built to a lower fat specification using more water, more gum stabilizers, and more whey protein to approximate the texture of real cream cheese without the dairy fat content that makes real cream cheese what it is. They are not required to be segregated from genuine cream cheese on the shelf, and many shoppers buying them have no idea they are not actually purchasing cream cheese in the legal sense of that term. We pulled the ingredient labels off 9 of the biggest cream cheese brands sold across America. We looked at what stabilizers and additives are present, whether the product meets the actual FDA standard of identity for cream cheese, and how the front of the packaging compares to what the ingredient list discloses on the back. We are counting down from the least concerning to the most concerning, and at the end I will give you 4 options that are actually worth buying. Let's get into it. Number 9. Trader Joe's cream cheese. Trader Joe's has spent years building its reputation specifically around cleaner ingredient lists and more thoughtful product curation than conventional grocery chains typically offer their shoppers, which is exactly why people who care about what they're eating disproportionately choose to shop there over other options available in the same market. The Trader Joe's cream cheese ingredient list is genuinely shorter than most mainstream competitors we will get to further down this list. Pasteurized milk and cream, cheese cultures, salt, and carob bean gum. That single stabilizer, carob bean gum, is used to help the cream cheese maintain its texture consistently at refrigerated temperatures and to reduce syneresis, the technical term for the liquid that separates from fresh cheese over time during storage. Carob bean gum itself is derived from the seeds of the carob tree and is generally considered one of the more benign stabilizers used in dairy products, far more defensible than the pharmaceutical antifungals and synthetic emulsifiers appearing in several brands further down this list. Trader Joe's cream cheese is not a perfect product, and the house brand format means specific supplier and sourcing information is not independently verifiable. But relative to the rest of this countdown, it represents a genuinely cleaner formulation that deserves acknowledgement. Number 8. Organic Valley Cream Cheese. Organic Valley is a farmer-owned cooperative that has built its entire brand identity around organic dairy farming practices and transparent supply chain standards, positioned as one of the most trustworthy names in the organic dairy category broadly. The Organic Valley cream cheese ingredient list includes pasteurized organic cream and milk, cheese cultures, salt, and carob bean gum. Very similar in overall structure to the Trader Joe's formulation. The organic certification here is meaningful and independently verified, addressing the question of what the dairy cows producing the milk were fed and what synthetic hormones or antibiotics they were or were not exposed to during production. That is real and worth paying for if those concerns matter to your household. What organic certification does not address is the additive and stabilizer question, which is why carob bean gum still appears in this product despite the clean farming practices behind the dairy inputs. The distinction between organic milk processed into a clean cream cheese and conventional milk processed into a heavily stabilized cream cheese is real and important, and Organic Valley's position near the clean end of this list reflects that reality. Number 7. Nancy's Organic Cream Cheese. Nancy's is a smaller brand with a specific focus on probiotic dairy products, positioning itself at the premium end of the natural foods category around the health benefits of live-active cultures in its finished products, rather than simply around organic certification alone. Nancy's cream cheese does list live-active cultures as part of its formulation, which is genuinely distinct from most cream cheese products on this list, where cultures are used during production to acidify the milk but may not remain alive and active in the finished product by the time it reaches the shelf. The ingredient list stays reasonably short, and the brand's probiotic positioning adds a specific functional claim that sets it apart from brands competing purely on taste and texture. The concern here is not the ingredient list itself, which is among the cleaner ones in the category. It's the price premium attached to the probiotic claim, and whether shoppers understand that the live culture content in a refrigerated cream cheese can degrade over the shelf life of the product, and cannot be independently verified by a consumer reading the label at the store. Number 6. Store brand cream cheese sold under regional grocery chain private labels. This is more of a broad category than any single brand, but it covers a large percentage of the actual cream cheese purchases happening in American grocery stores every week because store-brand cream cheese across most regional chains sits at a price point meaningfully below the national brands while presenting itself as essentially the same product. Store-brand cream cheese is typically produced by contract dairy manufacturers supplying multiple retailers simultaneously, using formulations that vary from one retailer to the next depending on the specific cost target and quality specification negotiated. Some store-brand cream cheeses maintain relatively short ingredient lists close to what a genuine traditional cream cheese formulation looks like. Others extend the ingredient list considerably to hit a lower cost target, adding whey protein concentrate to increase yield per unit of cream used, and stacking multiple gum stabilizers to compensate for reduced dairy fat content. Without knowing which specific co-packer produced the store-brand cream cheese you're looking at, and without the brand having any particular reputational stake in the formulation decisions made for a given retailer's house label, the only reliable way to evaluate any individual store-brand product is to read the ingredient list on the back of that specific tub, rather than assuming it matches what you've bought before. Number 5. Philadelphia Whipped Cream Cheese. Philadelphia is the single most recognized name in the entire American cream cheese category, a brand so dominant that in some households the word Philadelphia and the word cream cheese have become interchangeable, which represents a level of brand penetration that is commercially remarkable and nutritionally worth examining carefully. The whipped variety specifically deserves its own entry because of how the whipping process changes what's actually inside the container. Whipped cream cheese incorporates air into the base product, which increases the total volume while decreasing the density per tablespoon compared to regular cream cheese. That means a tablespoon of whipped cream cheese contains less actual cream cheese by weight than a tablespoon of the regular block, which is presented as a benefit in Philadelphia's marketing around reduced calorie intake per serving, but which also means you are paying the same price or more for a lower density product that runs out faster. The ingredient list on Philadelphia Whipped includes milk and cream, whey, carob bean gum, carrageenan, and natamycin. Carrageenan, discussed extensively across other episodes of Consumer Alert, is the additive that has generated ongoing scientific debate regarding potential gastrointestinal effects with regular consumption. Natamycin is a pharmaceutical antifungal agent derived from a soil bacterium, approved by the FDA as a food preservative at specified levels, and used specifically to prevent mold growth on the surface of cheese products during extended refrigerated storage. Its presence in a product marketed as a simple fresh cheese is a reasonable thing to know about before it becomes a daily staple on your breakfast table. Number 4. Philadelphia Original Block Cream Cheese. Philadelphia Original deserves its own separate entry from the whipped variety because the ingredient lists differ in ways that matter, and because the original block is the version most people buy as their default cream cheese regardless of whether they've ever thought critically about what's in it. The ingredient list on Philadelphia Original Block includes pasteurized milk and cream, whey protein concentrate, carob bean gum, carrageenan, guar gum, natamycin and cheese culture. Several of these deserve individual attention. Whey protein concentrate is added specifically to increase the total protein content of the finished product and to improve texture consistency at lower fat specifications, meaning it's used partly as a yield extender that allows the manufacturer to use less cream per unit of finished product while maintaining an acceptable texture. Guar gum appears alongside carob bean gum and carrageenan as a third stabilizer in the same product, which means three separate gum systems are working together to maintain the texture of something that traditional cream cheese achieves its texture through nothing but controlled acidification, draining and temperature management. The combination of three stabilizers, a pharmaceutical antifungal, and a protein extender in the most purchased cream cheese in America, is the formulation behind a brand that has spent decades marketing itself around the idea of freshness and simplicity. Number 3. Kraft cream cheese. Kraft operates in a similar mass-market tier to Philadelphia and produces cream cheese under its own name in addition to co-owning the Philadelphia brand through the parent company structure. Kraft cream cheese follows a similar multi-stabilizer formulation pattern, with carrageenan, guar gum, carob bean gum, and natamycin appearing across several of its products, the same stacked gum system that shows up in Philadelphia Original. What makes Kraft worth a separate entry is the specific line of flavored cream cheese spreads sold under the Kraft name, where the ingredient list extends considerably further than the plain variety to include artificial flavors, disodium phosphate, and in some varieties, artificial colors. A shopper moving quickly through the dairy aisle and reaching for a flavored Kraft cream cheese spread has moved meaningfully further from anything resembling a simple fresh dairy product than even the plain Kraft cream cheese already represents, while the packaging design maintains the same dairy freshness visual language across both varieties. If you have made it this far through the list, you're probably already thinking about what is sitting in your refrigerator right now. Subscribe to Consumer Alert right now, because we open up ingredient lists like these every single week, covering the products most people have been buying on autopilot for years without ever realizing what the back of the package actually says. 2 more entries left before we get to the 4 actually worth buying. And the next one specifically markets itself to shoppers who have already decided they want something lighter and healthier than regular cream cheese. Number 2. Philadelphia cream cheese spread varieties including garden vegetable, chive and onion, and strawberry. These products sit in the same refrigerated case as Philadelphia Original and Whipped, carry the same brand name and the same visual design language, and are purchased by shoppers who assume that adding real vegetables or fruit to cream cheese means the base product is at least as good as the plain version they trust. The ingredient list on Philadelphia flavored spreads typically extends significantly beyond the plain variety, to include natural flavors as a catch-all term, modified food starch, disodium phosphate, and in the fruit varieties, added sugar alongside actual fruit pieces. The natural flavors designation covers undisclosed flavoring compounds used to intensify or standardize the flavor of added ingredients that may not deliver the taste profile the marketing implies through real vegetable or fruit content alone. Modified food starch extends texture and helps the spread hold its consistency when mixed ingredients change the moisture balance of the base product. And disodium phosphate is a synthetic emulsifier that helps prevent the product from separating during extended refrigerated storage. The garden vegetable variety implies something close to cream cheese with fresh vegetables blended in. The ingredient list describes a more complex formulation where multiple processing aids and flavor compounds are working to create that impression. Number 1. Ultra discount and dollar store cream cheese products sold at price points so far below the standard grocery shelf that the math alone raises questions about what is being compromised to make that price possible. Real cream cheese requires a meaningful quantity of cream as its primary raw material. Cream has a market price. When a finished cream cheese product sells for significantly less than the cost of the cream it would take to produce it honestly, something in the formulation has been substituted to make the price work. Products at the absolute bottom of the cream cheese price spectrum typically achieve that price through one or more of the following approaches: using a much higher proportion of whey protein and water relative to cream than a standard cream cheese formulation requires, which reduces the dairy fat content toward or below the FDA standard of identity threshold for genuine cream cheese while maintaining an acceptable texture through maximum stabilizer loading. Using the maximum permitted quantities of carrageenan, xanthan gum, guar gum, and carob bean gum simultaneously, all 4 in the same product, to compensate texturally for the reduced cream content, and relying on natamycin at maximum permitted levels to extend shelf life on a product whose lower fat content makes it more vulnerable to spoilage than a properly formulated higher fat cream cheese would be. At that price point and with that formulation, the product on the label says cream cheese. What's inside the container has moved about as far from fresh cream cheese as you can move while technically staying within the regulatory definition. That is the full list, 9 entries, 3 repeating patterns across nearly every single one. A stacked stabilizer system using multiple gum compounds simultaneously to compensate for reduced cream content or to engineer texture consistency at mass production scale. Natamycin appearing as a pharmaceutical antifungal in products marketed around dairy freshness and simplicity. And carrageenan showing up across the majority of mainstream brands despite ongoing published research into its potential effects on digestive health with regular consumption. Before we get to what is actually worth buying, here is what you can check tonight with the tub or block sitting in your own refrigerator. Start with the ingredient count. A traditional cream cheese has between 3 and 5 ingredients: cream and milk, cheese culture, salt, and possibly 1 gum stabilizer. If your ingredient list extends past 5 or 6 items, additives are doing structural work that the dairy itself is no longer being asked to do. Then look specifically for carrageenan. Its presence in a cream cheese means the manufacturer chose to add a seaweed-derived polysaccharide specifically to help hold the product together through extended cold storage, and the ongoing published research into its gastrointestinal effects, while not settled, has been enough to push several European food manufacturers to remove it voluntarily from dairy products. It is worth knowing it's in your daily breakfast spread. Then look for natamycin. Its presence means the product needed a pharmaceutical antifungal added to its surface or incorporated into the formulation specifically to prevent mold growth during what the manufacturer anticipated would be a long shelf life. A product made from fresh, properly handled dairy and stored correctly doesn't need a pharmaceutical preservative. Its presence tells you something specific about the production and distribution chain behind that tub. Now, 4 options that are actually worth buying. The first good pick is Vermont Creamery Cream Cheese, a brand that produces cream cheese through a traditional cultured method using locally sourced milk from small New England farms, with an ingredient list that stays genuinely short across its core varieties: cream, milk, cultures, salt, and 1 or at most 2 stabilizers without carrageenan and without natamycin. Vermont Creamery sources transparently, publishes its farming practices and supplier relationships, and has maintained a formulation built around dairy quality rather than additive substitution throughout its production history. It costs more than Philadelphia. That cost reflects real cream from identified farms and a formulation that doesn't need 3 simultaneous gum systems and a pharmaceutical antifungal to maintain its texture through a long distribution chain. The second good pick is Organic Valley Cream Cheese, covered earlier in this list at the less concerning end. The organic certification is independently verified, the ingredient list stays relatively clean with a single stabilizer, and the farmer cooperative structure means the sourcing practices behind the dairy inputs are more directly accountable than the anonymous supply chain behind most large corporate dairy brands. For shoppers who are specifically concerned about the farming practices behind the milk going into their cream cheese rather than simply the additive load in the finished product, Organic Valley represents a genuinely defensible choice at a price point below Vermont Creamery. The third good pick is any cream cheese produced by a local dairy or artisan cheesemaker in your region, available at farmers markets, specialty grocery stores, or direct farm subscription services. Local artisan cream cheese typically has an ingredient list of 3 items: cream, cultures, and salt, produced in small enough batches that gum stabilizers, pharmaceutical antifungals, and protein extenders are neither economically necessary nor logistically required to maintain shelf life across a long national distribution network. The texture will be softer and more variable than a Philadelphia block because nothing artificial is holding it in a perfectly consistent shape, and it will have a shorter refrigerator life than a commercially preserved product. Those are not quality flaws. They are what actual fresh cream cheese looks and behaves like before industrial processing requirements changed the category. The fourth good pick, and the most reliable option available anywhere on this list, is making cream cheese yourself at home, which is genuinely simpler than most people assume. Full-fat cream or whole milk, a starter culture or a tablespoon of plain yogurt with live cultures as an alternative, a small amount of salt, a pot, a colander, and some cheesecloth. Heat the cream gently to just below boiling, stir in the culture, let it rest at room temperature for 12 to 24 hours while the acidification happens. Then drain through cheesecloth until the texture reaches your preference. The result is fresh cream cheese with exactly 3 ingredients in it, none of which are natamycin, carrageenan, gar gum, or whey protein concentrate. The cost per batch is lower than a Philadelphia block, and the process takes less active time than most people spend researching which cream cheese to buy. You will know, with complete certainty, exactly what is in every bite. Here is the one rule genuinely worth keeping the next time you're standing in the dairy aisle. Flip the tub over before it goes in your cart. Count the ingredients. Look specifically for carrageenan, natamycin, and the word spread anywhere in the product name, which signals the product may not meet the FDA standard of identity for actual cream cheese. If any of those 3 appear, ask yourself whether the front of the packaging was giving you accurate information about what you were about to buy. If this changed how you think about something as routine as the cream cheese on your morning bagel, hit the like button right now and tell me in the comments which specific brand was sitting in your refrigerator before you started watching this video. Subscribe to Consumer Alert so you catch it every single week we open up another everyday dairy label that nobody else is reading closely enough. Stay sharp, read the back of the tub before you trust the front of it, and I will see you in the next one.